Good evening and welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Lees. Here's tonight's top story. More than 240 volunteers from around the nation rescue an injured caver trapped underground for 54 hours.
All Saturday we were worried, most of yesterday we were worried, so this is a huge relief.
Also tonight, the Health Secretary announces all patient-facing NHS workers must be vaccinated by April to keep their jobs. And 40,000 new jobs are expected as the government pledges over £200 million to small nuclear reactor research, matched by private sector investment. A man has been rescued from a cave in Wales after being trapped for 54 hours. More than 240 people and at least 8 cave rescue teams from around the UK were involved in the operation. They worked seamlessly in difficult conditions. The man was said to be in good spirits. NTD's Gov't has the story.
An injured man has been rescued from a cave after spending more than 2 days trapped inside. He's said to be doing remarkably well. The man was brought out of a cave in the Brecon Beacons at around 7:45 on Monday evening, following a 54-hour ordeal. After being lifted to the surface, he was clapped and cheered by rescuers. He was transported to hospital in Swansea, first in a cave rescue Land Rover and then by ambulance.
I was here when the call-out started, and I was very worried then, would we get him out alive or would he deteriorate? And all Saturday we were worried, most of yesterday we were worried, so this is a huge relief.
The caves near Swansea are 300 metres deep and more than 30 miles long. They are the deepest and third longest in the UK. More than 240 people were involved in the operation and at least 8 cave rescue teams from around the UK. One of the team members said the rescue was difficult, but the team worked perfectly.
Well, it was certainly a very long rescue. It was quite cold a lot of the time, but we were highly motivated, and we were honoured to have rescue teams from around the UK join us and work with us seamlessly.
The caver is in his 40s and is believed to have a broken jaw, leg and spinal injuries. He was put on a stretcher, but rescuers had to pass the stretcher along instead of walking with it because of the difficult conditions inside the caves.
Our route is dictated by the nature of the cave, so we have to sometimes crawl, sometimes through water, sometimes we have to climb up or down. We have to negotiate boulders.
The rescue is said to be the longest in South Wales caving history. Teams of rescuers worked in shifts to bring the man to safety.
So we have to plan each moment of being in the cave so that there's always a team ahead as well as a team behind and a team doing. It's quite complicated at times, but we've done this so many times, there's no surprises.
The rescued man is an experienced caver and fell when some rocks moved. Gov't, NTD News.
There are fresh concerns for health and social care workers who do not wish to get the COVID-19 vaccine. The government has decided NHS staff in England must be vaccinated to keep their jobs.
I have concluded that all those working in the NHS and social care will have to be vaccinated. We must avoid preventable harm and protect patients in the NHS, protect colleagues in the NHS, and, of course, protect the NHS itself. There will be 2 key exemptions. One for those who don't have face-to-face contact with patients, and the second for those that are medically exempt.
Health Secretary Sajid Javid delivered the news in Parliament today. But the measure won't be brought in until April next year to try to alleviate staff shortages over Christmas, as workers may choose to leave their job rather than comply. COVID-19 vaccines are already compulsory for care home workers. This measure comes into force on Thursday. Fashion retailer Primark has said it will not be increasing prices over Christmas despite soaring costs and a drop in sales. The company revealed a 12% drop in sales compared to pre-pandemic levels as it continues to be impacted by restrictions to its stores. The fashion retailer has lost a third of its available trading days due to lockdown closures. George Weston, chief executive of Primark's parent firm, Associated British Foods, said they haven't increased prices at Primark over the past 10 years and won't do so this year. He noted currency difference as working in the company's favour and said they found cost savings in other areas, so won't pass that on. Weston said they plan to open more Primark stores after hailing a good sales performance in the face of continued disruption during the pandemic. The government and the private sector will jointly provide over £400 million for research into small nuclear reactors. They hope these reactors, which can be relatively cheap to build and easy to transport, could be a key in shifting to clean house energy more quickly. NTD's Eddie Aiken tells us more.
Britain is investing £210 million into small-scale nuclear reactor research as the government seeks alternatives to fossil fuels amid fears over rising gas prices. The investment will be matched with at least £250 million from the private sector, including from Rolls-Royce. The government hopes small modular reactors, or SMR, could be in use by the 20s to 30s. The recipient of the government funds, Rolls-Royce SMR, estimates that each small modular reactor could be capable of powering 1 million homes. Small modular reactors can be made in factories, with parts small enough to be transported on trucks and barges, and assembled more quickly and cheaply than large-scale reactors. Rolls-Royce forecast that the SMR business could create up to 40,000 jobs based on British and export demand. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Britain said it would recognise COVID-19 vaccines on the World Health Organization's emergency use listing later this month. This adds China's Sinovac and Sinopharm, as well as India's Covaxin, to the country's approved list of vaccines for inbound travellers. The changes, which come into force from 22nd of November, will benefit fully vaccinated people from countries including the United Arab Emirates, Malaysia and India. The Department for Transport said on Monday that travel rules will also be further simplified. All people under the age of 18 will be treated as fully vaccinated at the border and will be able to enter England without self-isolating on arrival. At the UN Climate Summit, wealthy nations are scrabbling to meet their $100 billion climate finance target. The United Nations says the money will help developing countries deal with climate change. But critics say it will result in those countries being locked in poverty. NTD's Jane Worrell has this report.
Transformation of economic activity.
Climate finance is a key talking point at the UN summit in Glasgow. It involves wealthy countries pledging large sums of money to poorer countries.
I just want to emphasise today that if we don't reach the target that we have set of $100 billion a year in climate finance for developing countries, then we will deprive them of the opportunity not only to build coastal defences and renewable industries, but to build the healthcare systems that are necessary for resistance to droughts and famine and also to pollution in the air.
Developed countries have a collective goal to commit to $100 billion per year, which is expected to be met in 2023. The UN says the money will help developing countries adapt to and reduce climate change, but that's questionable, with critics of foreign aid previously saying such schemes trap poorer nations into aid dependency and further poverty. During an interview at a climate realist event running alongside COP26, author Mark Morano says it will result in limiting the development of poorer countries.
These leaders aren't going to use it for the betterment of their people. They're going to use this money to ensure their re-election, to keep people essentially locked in poverty. So the United Nations, when they give out this money, what you would expect is nothing but graft and corruption. That's what the United Nations has done historically. That's what they've been caught doing, and that's what they're going to continue to do. There's a reason the vaccine mandate was lifted for this conference. They want the countries that haven't had access to the vaccine, typically the developing world, Asia, Africa, South America, to come to this conference because they know that's the way they can get eager world leaders to sign on to an agenda which ultimately is going to limit their development.
The two-week summit has just passed its midpoint with calls for a global system for climate finance from former politicians like Gordon Brown and pledges for climate action. Jane Worrell, NTD News.
Still to come, a Facebook whistleblower gives evidence to a European Parliament's committee saying the company knows how to make Facebook and Instagram safer, but won't because it puts profits before people. There's some more after the break. Facebook whistleblower Francishaugen testified before a European Parliament's committee that is reviewing proposed online safety legislation. She said Facebook puts profits before people and threatens the integrity of our democracies. She hopes the EU can beef up its existing regulations and set a gold standard for other countries to follow. NTD's Al Rhodes has the story.
Facebook whistleblower Francishaugen appeared before a European Parliament committee on Monday as EU lawmakers debate legislative regulation of the social media platform.
But I am here today because I believe that Facebook's products harm children, stoke division, weaken our democracy, and much more.
Haugen told members of the Internal Market and Consumer Protection Committee that Facebook's leadership knows how to make Facebook and Instagram safer, but they won't make the necessary changes because they've put profits before people.
The consequences are severe. The Facebook platform today damages the health and safety of our communities and threatens the integrity of our democracies. Rising to meet these challenges won't be easy. But democracies must do what they have always done when the actions of commerce conflict with the interests of the people and society as a whole.
Members of the European Parliament are debating whether to firm up the Digital Services Act, or DSA, that aims to protect the rights of users in digital spaces. Haugen said she's grateful that the EU is taking this seriously and that the DSA could be a game changer.
It can inspire other countries, including my own, to pursue new rules that would safeguard our democracies. But the law has to be strong and its enforcement firm. Otherwise, we will lose this once-in-a-generation opportunity to align the future of technology and democracy.
Haugen said the DSA should force platforms to take responsibility for risks beyond the spread of illegal content, such as election manipulation and disinformation. Since Haugen left Facebook, the company has renamed itself Meta, as it focuses its business on a virtual reality world called the Metaverse. Haugen said she's surprised Facebook picked this name, which is from a novel called Snow Crash.
In that book, the metaverse is a dystopian thing, that people's lives are so unpleasant that they need to hide in the system for half of their day. I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to have people who are disconnected from society or marginalized.
Before testifying in front of the MEPs, Haugen was presented with 80,000 signatures of support in front of the European Parliament. They were collected by global consumer watchdog Some of Us. Facebook's Vice President of Content Policy, Monica Bickert, rejected Haugen's claims that it prioritises profits over user safety. She said Facebook would spend nearly £4 billion this year on safety and security. Earl Rhodes, NTD News.
France views nuclear energy as central to global climate plans being hashed out at COP26 talks in Glasgow. Not only does France get 70% of its energy from nuclear, it's also one of the leaders in the nuclear waste industry. NTD's Neil Woodrow looks at how France deals with its nuclear waste.
As nations plot out the world's future energy mix at the Glasgow climate talks, nuclear power is a central sticking point. Some prominent climate scientists are in support. They point out how nuclear power stations have avoided emitting billions of tons of carbon dioxide by offsetting fossil fuel combustion. Critics point to the issue of nuclear waste, some of which will remain radioactive for thousands of years to come.
The waste is a central question in nuclear energy, as we end up having to manage waste for tens, hundreds of thousands of years, which raises moral questions about what we're leaving for future generations.
Here in eastern France near Sollys, a steady stream of lorries brings nuclear waste into France's radioactive waste storage site. The lorries are repeatedly checked, wiped and scanned for leaks. A spokesperson for French radioactive waste management agency ANDRA says the safety procedures and the 45-centimetre thick walls make sure the waste is stored safely. With 70% of its energy from nuclear, France is Europe's biggest user. France is also among the leaders in the nuclear waste industry. It has developed a multi-layer system for dealing with its nuclear leftovers. At Sollys, the storage units hold 90% of France's low to middle activity radioactive waste and are designed to last for at least 300 years. Environmentalists question this.
When you look at the waste that is referred to as short-life waste, it's still waste that will last for less than 300 years. If you look back 300 years ago, we were almost at the French Revolution. So we can only ask ourselves questions about waste management for such a long span.
Not far away near the town of Bieux and about 500 metres below the surface, France is laying the groundwork for a permanent deep earth repository. If approved, this is meant to be for all of France's longer life waste, mainly used nuclear fuel. Workers are carrying out tests, carving tunnels and seeking to prove that the long-term storage plan is the safest solution for future generations.
Whether we decide to go on with nuclear energy or not, we will need to find a solution for the management of that nuclear waste.
With oil and gas costs driving an energy price crisis across Europe, French President Emmanuel Macron has advocated for more use of nuclear power, a position shared by all candidates for next year's presidential election. Neil Woodrow, NTD News.
Staying with France, the country showcases its military muscle this week by deploying a naval vessel to the East Mediterranean to gather intelligence. According to the ship's captain, the deployment shows that Paris attaches importance to ensuring security and stability in the region. The frigate, with its 150-strong crew, is currently stationed in Cyprus and will remain in the region until January. The story comes from NTD's Lily Joel.
The French military vessel Wont was commissioned 3 years ago. This is the 12th time it has visited Cyprus to support French naval operations in the region.
The frequent and nearly permanent deployment of a French asset in Eastern Med shows France's willingness to contribute to the stabilization of this strategic area.
Its purpose is to gather intelligence in order to show how the respect of international law and especially freedom of navigation matters to France. The vessel, with its advanced sonar equipment, specializes in anti-submarine warfare. Relations between Cyprus and France have been growing tighter in recent years. France is also keen to make its presence felt in the region, to send signals to Turkey not to interfere with offshore drilling. Turkey doesn't recognize Cyprus as a state and contests waters where the Cypriot government claims exclusive economic rights. Political analyst Anna Koukidis Prokopiou believes France is sending a strong message to Turkey.
Since the Americans have been pivoting away from the region since Obama's time, I think it was made clear that someone needs to move in. This is the law of nature. No vacuums ever exist. So someone had to move in and fill that vacuum. Now, France wants to make sure that it's not Turkey.
The ship's captain said the Wont would be deployed in the East Mediterranean until January. Lily Zhou, NTD News.
Germany has sent a warship to Japan for the first time in 20 years, joining a mission to ensure safety and stability in the Indo-Pacific. It comes amid territorial disputes and a changing military balance in the region. Germany follows Britain and the US in sending warships to the Indo-Pacific as the West weighs up how to deal with the Chinese Communist Party's military assertiveness. NTD's Anna Rodriguez brings us this report.
The chief of the German Navy on Tuesday said the dispatch of a warship to the Indo-Pacific shows Germany's concern for peace in the region, hinting at but not naming China. He said territorial disputes and a changing military balance could cause extensive impact beyond Asia. Vice Admiral Kai-Achim Schonbach told a press conference the warship will pass through the South China Sea to demonstrate its right to sail there without interference.
The South China Sea is a global common. That is, a sea that belongs to everyone, so it cannot be taken possession of or claimed by anyone if we abide by the international world order.
Schonbach was in Tokyo to mark the German warship Bayang's port call in Japan. It's the first German warship to visit Japan in 20 years. Dignitaries from both countries spoke on board.
The Indo-Pacific is one of the strategically most important regions of the world. Important decisions over freedom, peace and prosperity in the world are being made here. Deploying our frigate to the Indo-Pacific makes clear that Germany stands up for our common values.
The Japanese defense minister said the frigate's visit shows Germany is determined to be involved in the peace and security in the region.
This determination will be widely acknowledged. It greatly contributes to the realization of a free and open Indo-Pacific. I hope this will extend to other European countries.
One of the Bayang's key mission in the area is to monitor North Korean ships to ensure they abide by a UN Security Council resolution. Anna Rodriguez, NTD News.
Edward Sollys was an English merchant who collected over 3,000 paintings when he lived in Berlin in the early 19th century. The Sollys collection later laid the foundation for one of Germany's most significant museums. Now, 200 years on, parts of the collection are on display in the German capital. NTD's Eddie Aiken has the details.
This is Virgin and Child enthroned with 4 saints by the Italian Renaissance painter Davide Ghirlandaio. It was painted for a monastery in Florence at the end of the 15th century. For several hundred years it was largely forgotten, until it became famous in Berlin in the 19th century.
It is a work from Florentine from the early Renaissance. In the time around 1800, it wasn't really highly regarded. But then all of a sudden, it became seen as an ideal model for the history of art by the artists at the time. It was considered a template work, so to speak.
The painting by Ghirlandaio and over 3,000 other paintings were collected by English merchant Edward Sollys during the 5 years he lived in Berlin. And the whole collection was sold to the Königliches Museum in 1821.
Edward Sollys was foremost a merchant. He traded grain and wood in the Baltic Sea area. That means from Russia to England. He was English, but he lived for several years in Danzig and then in Berlin. He was in Berlin for about 5 years, and on the side, he collected art and sold art. He started as a collector and then also started trading.
Out of the 3,000 works, around 700 were significant enough to be placed in the museum's collection. Over the years, the Königliches Museum became the Gemäldegalerie Gallery, but the Sollys collection is still the heart of the museum.
It was one of the cornerstones of the founding of the museum here, the Gemaldi, and it was very lucky that it was purchased. It is really a part of the character of the Gemaldi Museum that has been extremely influential and really one of the highlights here.
Sollys kept most of the paintings in a house that he owned in Berlin. There were paintings everywhere from the ground floor to the attic. The Sollys collection exhibition runs until January the 16th. Eddie Aiken, NTD News.
And finally, Italian winemakers are angry over the European Union's decision to grant the same special status to a Croatian wine as that of Italy's Prosecco. But Croatia says its wine Prošek has a name and tradition dating back centuries and should receive similar protection. NTD's Gov't has more.
Overlooking the Gulf of Trieste, Miloš Gabar is reviving a centuries-old winemaking tradition. Ethnic Slovene Italians call this Proseccar, a close relative of the bubbly Prosecco. In the traditions handed down by Slovene minority winemakers, they say Proseccar came first.
Proseccar is the original because it was born 300 years before Prosecco wine, and then the vine was brought from Prosecco to Veneto and Valdobbiadene. So it is the father of Proseccar, Prosecco, Prosec, and all other variants. And here we have the history. Already in the 1600s there was a sparkling procedure with the ancestral method, which is completely different from the current sparkling process used by producers from Veneto.
Now, Prosecco makers are battling to ban Croatian winemakers from using the name Prosec, and the entire European Union's system of geographical and origin designations to protect and guarantee the quality of artisanal food, wine and spirits is up in the air. Italy's Prosecco won geographical protection for its wines 12 years ago when it established the Prosecco DOC region, and the country is hopeful the EU will be obliged to protect their product.
It is not a financial issue, it is a question of principle. And this time around we need to fight all together, because we need to give coherence to Europe and everything it has done in the past, as well as what denomination protection will do and mean from here on out.
Prosecco organisations point to Italy's lost battle in 2006 to use the name Tokai for a single varietal white wine. In that case, the EU ruled that the name was tied to Hungary's Tokai region and granted exclusive use of the name because of its protected geographical location. In Italy, Tokai was a grape, not a region.
First off, the system of protection would be weakened. On an international level, we have foreign authorities from different countries around the world that recognize us and protect us from copies or imitations. And if Prosec were to be accepted, it is obvious that it would be difficult to explain to foreign authorities that they have to protect us when the European Union doesn't guarantee this protection.
The Italian government has pledged to defend Prosecco's name, and other makers of protected denomination products like Parmigiano Reggiano cheese and champagne are paying attention. The dispute will be decided in the coming months in Brussels. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
That's the news for today. Have a good evening. Thank you for watching our daily news show on YouTube. You can also watch our other programming on channel 190 on Sky TV or on Freeview via channel box on channel 271. In the meantime though, please give this video a like and hit subscribe to our channel. Have a good day.